To salt or not to salt? That is the question we're going to be talking about here today. Thanks for checking out my video, Jersey Shore Pondscapes videos. My name is Chris. Today we are talking about whether or not we should be using salt in our pond. What are the advantages of it? What's the disadvantages of it? When should we use it? How much should we use? We're going to try to answer all these questions for you today, okay? So, salt. Salt is basically used two ways in a pond. One, it's kind of like a water conditioner, okay? It does add some like electrolytes into the pond. Also, it can be used as a treatment against algae, hairy, stringy algae, and also against protozoan parasites. It's a great cure for protozoan parasites. We'll get into that in a little bit. So first, let's just talk. So many of my clients, early spring especially, will say to me, okay, we're opening up the pond. Should I put salt in it? And I kind of have mixed emotions about it, okay? While salt can be a good thing in the pond, it can also be a bad thing in some circumstances. I generally tend, and it's just me, not to put salt in the pond all the time, okay? Now the main reason for that is, well, basically I always think, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So if we don't need it, why should we be putting it in, okay? There's arguments both ways, all right? Salt, like I said, is kind of like a conditioner. It does add electrolytes into the water. But the big disadvantage of keeping your pond salted all the time is if you should now get a parasitic infection, a protozoan parasitic infection, things like ick, costia, trichodina, and you keep salt in your pond, those parasites are now immune to the salt. And in order to cure this problem, to solve, kill these parasites, we have to then turn to chemical additives. These chemical additives can be expensive. They could be a kind of a almost kill or cure your fish kind of situation. If your fish are really sick with these parasites and you put these toxic chemicals in your pond, it could kill the fish, especially if it's overtreated, all right? The other thing with them is a lot of these chemicals take days and days and days and multiple applications each day to cure your fish. So you buy a bottle of it that maybe treats 1,000 gallons, all right? And it tells you, you need to add, please always follow the instructions on these bottles, so many ounces per so many hundreds of gallons per day for 7 days, 10 days, 14 days, whatever it may be. Okay, so it's going to take a long time. You're going to need a lot of product, okay, and because it's not just dump it in once and you're done, okay? You're going to be using multiple bottles depending on the size of the pond over multiple days, weeks, okay? So it can get really difficult sometimes. Now, if we don't have salt in our ponds and we do get a protozoan parasite, say our fish have ick, okay? Now I can go to the store and I can buy some salt and I can dump that salt in there and boom, like that, we're gonna wipe it out. Really easy, okay? And much cheaper, okay? So that's my thing with salt. Salt can also be used to kill that hairy, stringy algae in the pond, okay? It can help control a lot of that. Plants do not like salt. Okay, algae's a plant. So if we are adding salt to kill the algae in our pond, okay, we're using this salt for a purpose. So like I said before, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But now we have an issue, we have a problem, we have hairy, stringy algae growing everywhere, and we need to control it. So I would much rather try to control it with salt than with chemical algicides. Okay, I'm not a fan of chemical algicides. I see too many people kill off all their fish, especially in a hot summer. Okay, so I definitely, would rather use the salt. Now, keep in mind that the salt will not evaporate out of your pond. All right, if you put salt in your pond and 3 weeks later you say, you know what, I just added some more water to my pond because I had some evaporation, I had to add some water to the pond, so I need to put in more salt. No, you're wrong. Okay, the salt does not evaporate. Okay, so if you put salt in today, you have evaporation and you have to top that pond off, do not put more salt in the pond. The salt is still in there. Okay, the only time you would need to add more salt is if you are physically doing a water change, if you are removing all that water out of the pond. Okay, and then adding fresh water, now you may want to add more salt. Okay, if you want to keep that level up. Now, how much salt do we use? Okay, all right, so basically to kill parasites, which is going to be your strongest dilution that we're going to use, okay, we want a 3% solution. So basically what that is to kill parasites is you're going to be adding 3 pounds of salt for every 100 gallons. Okay, so it's 3 pounds per 100 gallons, which is 30 pounds per 1,000 gallons. All right, that's for parasites. And when we treat for parasites like that, I've heard, I've learned, I've read that what we want to do is we want to add 1 pound per 100 gallons or 10 pounds per 1,000 gallons every day for 3 days. Okay, so after 3 days we've got our 3 pounds per 100 or 30 per 1,000. Okay, so there has been a couple times where I've seen some ponds that have had a really bad parasite problem, okay, like bad, and I said, and I tried speeding it up. So instead of doing one treatment for 3 days, I did 2 treatments in 2 days. So I did 1.5 pounds the first day, 1.5 pounds the second day per 100, or 15 pounds per 1,000 the first day, 15 pounds per 1,000 the second day. All right, so I basically just cut the 3-day treatment into a 2-day. Just to get that salt in there and get it working. Okay, I've never had an issue with that, and salt kills those parasites really, really easily and pretty rapidly. Now, after you treat with that salt, and we have it at 3 pounds per 100 gallons, we want to leave it at that level for a while. Okay, because the protozoan parasites have a life cycle, right? Where they lay the eggs, and then they are what's the word? I'm sorry. Anyway, they have a cycle, right? They lay the eggs, they hatch, they find a host, they attach, they grow, they lay more eggs, okay? So it's a whole cycle that we need to break, okay? So if we're treating today, right now, okay, we need to make sure that not only we're killing the adults, okay, the larvae, that's the word I was looking for before, the adults, okay, but we also have to wait for those eggs to hatch and become larvae, and then, kill them as well. So we need to keep that salt level up. Okay, for algae, I don't treat at 3 pounds per 100 gallons. I usually treat it half that, about 1.5 pounds, anywhere between 1 pound to 1.5 pounds per 100 gallons. Okay, so 10 to 15 pounds per 1,000, and that can knock off the algae pretty well. And simply what I do is I take the salt and I sprinkle it around the ponds on the algae, directly on the algae. Okay, and this way it kind of just gets right in there. So okay, so we see how we need to add the salt at different levels, okay, for different applications, okay? Algae, pound, pound and a half per 100. Parasites, 3 pounds per 100 over 3 days or 2, okay? Now, as I said before, algae is a plant, and plants do not like salt, okay? So, I will tell you, the rest of your pond plants, if you have lilies and all kinds of other flowers and plants in the pond, they're not going to like that salt either, okay? Now, these plants are bigger, hardier, stronger than, you know, small little algae cells, okay? So they are a little bit less affected by it. But anything over a pound, pound and a half, you may start seeing these plants start to yellow off a little bit, okay? 3 pounds per 100 gallons, you can see those plants yellowing, all right? They don't like it, all right? But it's gonna cure your fish if you have parasites, okay? So, that's pretty much a good idea for you as far as salt. Now, if you go to a aquarium shop, a pond store, and you're looking to buy salt, a lot of times they're sold in containers, okay? They're small containers. They may treat, here's one right here, okay? This little thing is 40 ounces, so it's 2.5 pounds of salt. This treats 320 gallons. It says, it depends again how you're using it, all right? But my point is a little container like this can be $10, maybe more, okay? It doesn't treat very much, okay? It's only a couple pounds, and you're spending, say, you know, $8, $10 for a little can like this. Now, some places do sell it in larger bags, maybe 10-pound bags, 25-pound bags, okay? Maybe even 50-pound bags, all right? For me, I just go to Home Depot and I buy regular solar water conditioning salt. Okay, not anything special like they have System Saver and Rust Remover and things like that, or pool salt. You don't want that stuff. You want just plain natural salt crystals that they use for water conditioners. Okay, 50-pound bag, $8-9. All right, used to be even cheaper. Things are getting a little more expensive now. So you figure even $10, okay? $8, $9, $10, 50-pound bag, all right? It goes a lot further than $8, $10 for a little can like this, all right? So keep that in mind, okay? Now, some of my clients freak out sometimes if we have a large pond and we need to add salt, okay? It sounds like a lot. A 10,000 gallon pond, all right, at 3% solution, 3 pounds per 100 gallons, is 300 pounds of salt. I need 6 50-pound bags. It's 300 pounds of salt in 10,000 gallons of water, but it's still a 3% solution. It's the same as putting 3 pounds into 100 gallons or 30 pounds into 1,000. Okay, so don't let it freak you out. All right, it's still only a 3% solution. All right, yeah, it sounds like a lot, but it's exactly what's required. Okay, so again, now, should we put salt in the pond in the spring when we open a pond? A lot of people ask me about that. Again, I'm going to get back to this question. I tend not to. If I don't need it, I won't put it in. Now, if the client says, hey, Chris, I want to put salt in my pond, I'm not going to argue with you, okay? Absolutely, fine. It won't hurt. Go ahead, okay? If you normally do that and it's not broke, don't fix it. Just keep doing it, okay? Just like I said, my biggest issue is that if you should get a parasite, problem in your pond. It's a lot harder to cure. Okay, so I also now want to prove the point why salt may be good to add in the spring. So while it's not always necessary, and like I said, I tend to not use it if I don't need it, the argument for putting it in the pond is basically this, and it's a good one. During the winter, when the water in your pond is cold, your fish's metabolism really slows down. They're not feeding, they're not as active, okay? And at this time when their metabolism is slow, their ability to fight off infections, parasites, bacteria, fungi, is lowered, okay? Now, when the fish starts secreting their slime coat, okay, when they're fully active and metabolism is active, they're secreting this slime coat that protects them, okay? It's a coating on the outside of their body that does contain some antibodies and stuff that helps to fight off these pathogens. So when the water is really cold, their metabolism is not in full force, they can be under extreme stress, and during stressful times they lose that slime coat. So as the water starts to warm up in the spring, some of these pathogens, these bacteria and fungi and parasites, start to become more active before the fish's metabolism starts to increase. So this time they're definitely more susceptible to this. Now, salt, okay, used as a water conditioner, all right, we're going to do it about a pound, okay, about a pound per 100 gallons. So a little bit less than what we need to treat for algae, and definitely less than what we need to treat for parasites, okay? But just as a water conditioner, about a pound per 100 gallons, 10 pounds per thousand. This is enough to kind of cause the fish to kind of secrete some of that slime on their own, okay? Because in a way, salt is kind of like an irritant in the water. All right, so that salt is going to basically help the fish to start to secrete that natural slime coat, which helps protect them. So the use of salt in the spring as a water conditioner to help the fish secrete that slime coat, is definitely a good idea. All right, I'm not going to argue against it. But do I say that everyone needs to do this in the spring? Not really. All right, but it certainly has a good argument for doing it. All right, but and even keeping the salt levels in the pond at a low point like that, a lot of people want to do that, but it's totally up to you. I'm kind of giving you both sides of it. All right, so yeah, that's the argument for keeping salt in the pond in the early spring. So there's advantages and disadvantages to the salt. So keep in mind, okay, what you're using it for, whether it be a water conditioner, right, killing some hairy stringy algae, or for parasites, okay? How much we need, how much we're putting in, we talked about, okay? And also, keep in mind what you're buying, right, what you're paying for. Pond salt is salt, all right? It's not going to be anything massively different than that solar salt that I buy from Home Depot. It does the same thing, okay? Salt, all right? So don't always get, suckered into spending a lot of money for, pond salt, okay? So I hope that kind of helps you out and answers some questions for you, all right? It's a common question I get a lot, about people adding salt. It's just a personal preference of what you are comfortable with doing. So if I don't need to keep salt in the pond, I generally tend not to. If I need to treat for algae, I'll put it in, all right? And the other big important thing that I need to stress is, like I said, it does not evaporate out of the pond. All right, so if you have a 1,000-gallon pond, you put 30 pound, or not say, just say we're treating the water, just a water treatment, we're doing a pound, pound and a half, okay? If at the end of the week, you have some evaporation, you're topping your pond off an inch or two, don't put more salt in. The salt level is still going to be the same, okay? So I hope that helps you out. So please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel if you're into the koi ponds and waterfalls. I hope I answered some questions for you today and gave you a little bit of insight on using salt. And sorry if I ran on a little bit, but I just want to get these points out to you. So again, please subscribe to my channel, check out my other videos, and I've got a ton of information out there for you, and hopefully can answer a lot of questions and give you a lot of good ideas and helpful hints and everything else. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back in another video. Take care. Thank you. Bye.